The atmosphere in Providence Municipal Court is usually predictable. Parking tickets, minor traffic violations, ordinary people trying to survive ordinary problems. But that Tuesday morning, something felt wrong. The air was heavy, charged. My courtroom was packed, not with the usual defendants, but with reporters, curious onlookers, and men in dark suits who looked far too expensive for a municipal building. Then the doors opened. Julian Sterling walked in like he owned the room. 21 years old, heir to the Sterling hedge fund empire, a tailored Italian suit, sunglasses indoors, 5 attorneys, 4 private security guards. He didn't walk to the defendant's table, he strutted. The smirk on his face chilled me. It was the expression of someone who had never been told no, someone who believed laws were suggestions meant for people without money. But what struck me most wasn't Julian, it was who he ignored. Sitting quietly in the front row was Arthur Miller. 72 years old, retired janitor, 50 years spent cleaning the floors of buildings Julian's father owned. Arthur's arm was in a sling, his face bruised. His 2004 Honda Civic, the car he depended on, had been crushed by Julian's $2 million McLaren. The charges were serious: reckless endangerment, destruction of property, leaving the scene, and attempted bribery of a public official. According to police, Julian hadn't asked if Arthur was okay. He hadn't called an ambulance. He had thrown cash at a bleeding old man and said, "My time is worth more than his life." When I took the bench, Julian leaned casually against the table, already pulling out his checkbook, as if he were paying a restaurant bill. I told him to remove his sunglasses and put the checkbook away. He did neither. Instead, he smiled and began writing. The sound of the pen scratching paper echoed through the courtroom. Then he tore the check free and slid it forward. $50,000, he announced, for the junk car, the medical bills, and a donation. We drop this and I make my flight. Arthur shrank in his seat. To Julian, this wasn't a crime. It was a transaction. I informed him he had just committed a felony in open court. He laughed. "Everyone has a price, Judge," he said. "If that's not enough, say the number." That was the moment. I ordered the check seized as evidence and announced we were proceeding to trial immediately. When Arthur Miller took the stand, the courtroom went silent. He described the crash, the pain, being trapped in his car, bleeding, begging for help, and how Julian had thrown money at his face and walked away. Arthur explained that without his car, he couldn't easily take his wife to dialysis, that what hurt most wasn't the injury, it was being treated like he wasn't human. Julian laughed. "Just buy a new car," he muttered. "It's pathetic." That laugh sealed his fate. I turned to him and told him to stand. He refused. Only when the bailiff stepped forward did he rise, still smirking. Julian explained his philosophy plainly. "Everything has a price. That car was trash. I upgraded his life. He should thank me." I asked him what the return on investment was for human suffering. "Collateral damage," he replied. That word, collateral, told me everything. Julian didn't see people. He saw obstacles. He bragged about buying politicians, buying problems. He even threatened to have me removed from the bench. That was his final mistake. I found him guilty on all charges, including attempted bribery and intimidation of a judicial officer. He reached for his checkbook again. "There's always a fine," he said. "Just give me the number." I told him there would be no fine, because fines only punish the poor. For Julian Sterling, money was permission. So instead, I sentenced him to 2.5 years in state prison. No donations, no deals, prison. The courtroom erupted. Julian's smirk vanished. For the first time, fear replaced arrogance. As the handcuffs clicked shut, he screamed his father's name. He begged. He offered millions. None of it mattered. Arthur Miller stood silently, hat in hand, breathing deeply, for the first time since the crash. Within hours, the story went global. Julian's father declared war on the court, threatened lawsuits, spent millions trying to overturn the ruling, but the appeals court denied the emergency stay with one sentence: "The integrity of the court cannot be purchased." Julian Sterling spent the night in a prison cell. Arthur Miller went home to his wife. The public responded in a way I'll never forget. A fundraiser for Arthur raised more money in hours than Julian had ever thrown at him, with dignity, not humiliation. Months later, the Supreme Court upheld the sentence unanimously. Julian served most of his time. When he was released, the smirk was gone. This case was never about money. It was about whether justice still mattered when wealth tried to bend it. I sit on this bench for one reason, to make sure that right and wrong remain straight lines, because some things are not for sale. Case closed.